What happens if the Fed drops $285 billion off its balance sheet? Well, apparently it scares the market, but it can still persist. The real question is what happens when the Fed drops $1 trillion or more off its balance sheet? That probably won't end well. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at the Federal Reserve. We're going to look at the United States. I want to talk about the debt issues that are present. I want to talk about interest rates. A lot to cover today. And although we are focusing on the United States, I want to connect this in with the rest of the world because the entire world is going to feel the pain that will be experienced at some point in the United States. We can see that the economy is not doing well overall, but look in Europe. Look at how many countries right now have excessively high unemployment rates. Youth unemployment rate is a disaster in many countries. And you can see that the debt problems of a country like Greece, for example, end up becoming a real problem for real people, even when it was a banker's problem before. So let's get into this right away, and these three charts are from Wolf Street, and I wanted to begin with this one, Federal Reserve total assets, and their QE unwind from the peak up until today is minus $285 billion. When you compare it to the $4.5 trillion worth that was on the balance sheet in total, maybe it's not that significant, but it shows that they have been slowly, and I want to stress that slowly, but surely unwinding. I want to make it very clear. They are not selling the debt. They are allowing it to mature. So basically, they've maintained, let's just say, for example, for that while there, $4.5 trillion worth. And they did so by purchasing what they needed to in order to maintain this level. So this happens to be totally fine for the longest period of time. They decided that everything was going swimmingly. Let's just keep it where it is. And then finally they said, okay, well, the market seems to be doing very well. Unemployment is falling. We're at what they call, quote, full employment, which is an absolute joke. 10 cities all over the place. And so we have this unwinding process or quantitative tightening. And this has been taking a while. They're going at the absolute slowest rate. It's actually quite embarrassing. And yet this is what is occurring. So with minus $285 billion in such a slow period of time, it makes you really beg the question, what's taking so long? Why do it at such a slow rate if we have beyond full employment? All right, I think the last time I checked it was minus 3.7% on the U3. 3.7% unemployment rate. Okay, everybody knows that's fake. That's garbage. And so you look at that, GDP numbers are doing so well. You look at the booming economy that we're seeing everywhere, according to the mainstream media. And yet, you're only going to unwind the balance sheet at the historic slowest level it's ever been done before. You have interest rates that are still at near record lows. And it's taken you since the end of 2015 up until present day, 3 years. And it's not even at 3%. 3 years. This is going to be recognized when we look back 20, 50 years from now. We're going to say how embarrassing this time frame was. Okay? So that's the question. What's going to happen when we unwind this level? And not just of the treasuries, which I'll show you in a second, but looking at the mortgage-backed securities. QE unwind with 2 to 3 month lag, and they have dropped this $89 billion. So they bought up the worst of the worst garbage, mortgage-backed securities. And you have to think about this. I really need to stress the fact that a lot of individuals, I would say 90+% of them, even many people who are in the field of finance don't understand this. When you go to a bank or traditional lender, you go and get a mortgage. All right, let's just say, make up a number, $500,000 mortgage. They take that and they pool it all together and they sell it off to investors. It doesn't make any sense. As the individual, you pay your mortgage to your bank. That's all you know. The bill comes in, you pay the bill, you don't know anything about anything else. What they're doing is they're taking it, packaging it up. I talked about this in both of my books. And they mix it in sometimes with other types of debt. Credit card, car loans, anything, any garbage. Take it all together, sell it off as a product. And in this case here, that was a really, really big mistake during the subprime crisis. And what did they do? Well, the Federal Reserve said, okay, nobody's going to buy this garbage. We'll do it. So they printed up money out of thin air and they bought it. Now they're trying to unwind it. Who the hell wants to buy it? Who the hell would want to buy garbage? I just want to know. They say that, one man's garbage is another man's treasure. But I don't think anybody wants to buy this garbage. There's just no value in it at all. Treasury Securities, you could see the unwind of $172 billion. So clearly they've got more Treasury Securities than they do the garbage mortgage securities. But this is what we're encountering here at this time. I just wanted to show you that. All right, now I wanted to go into this. U.S. interest on Treasury debt. This is unbelievable, but they're paying $523 billion. And that's just the interest. So when you say that debt doesn't matter, when you have to pay $500 billion a year just on the interest, oh, don't worry, we're paying it to ourselves. Is that how it works? Because I think you're mistaken. This is not how the financial system works. This is not how the central bank system works. We owe our money to the money masters, and that is the central bankers. They profit. I'm tired of hearing people say that they believe what they've been told, that it's the central bank is a not-for-profit. They're going to give their profit back to the Treasury. I mean, are you that gullible? Do we have to start this video by saying once upon a time? Because I'll do that. If you want me to start it that way, please let me know in the comments if it makes you feel better. Senate approves $854 billion spending bill. This was back in September, and I never covered it. But basically, they're willing to spend nearly $1 trillion just like this. They don't care. They'll spend as much money as they need. Now, I'm all for spending versus quantitative easing. Can we stop the quantitative easing for now? Get rid of that balance sheet and then do stimulus measures through the government? Hey, if you're willing to just do that, I'd vote for that. But that's not the way it works. You got to do both, because the quantitative easing is not about rescuing banks. It's about transferring wealth from the average individual into the private hands. This is back from the same story, basically. The federal government could spend close to half its appropriated budget in the final fiscal quarter, which ends September 30th. They're spending as much as $300 billion in the final quarter of fiscal 2018. I mean, that's unbelievable. Why? Well, if you know how the government works, any government does this. They're given so much to spend per year. If they don't spend it, that means they don't need it. So the next year, the total money would be less. So they have to literally forcefully spend all the money they're given. Is truly an embarrassment. And one of the biggest problems I have is not with the stock market, not with the bond market. It's not with the shareholders or the bondholders. It's pensions. People's pensions are going to be eviscerated. We've already seen examples of it. I keep covering it, and I am ridiculed constantly, over and over again, as if I've made it up. But there have been many cases in which people's pensions have been taken away. They usually cut, on average, I've seen approximately 30%. That's what you will face at some point. Maybe it's going to happen 5 years from now. Maybe it's 20 years from now. Maybe it's 30 years from now. I really don't know. But at some point, the pension that you or maybe somebody you know has, give it time. They're going to slash it. The gap in the pension funding, taxpayers have had to pay billions more than anticipated to fund sweetened retirement benefits for state employees. You can see the charts here. There's an $18 billion gap. They're talking about CalPERS specifically, but I just wanted to generalize it and show you that this has been something that they've never been prepared for, and it only gets worse. Households and nonprofit organizations' net worth, and they're just basically comparing the GDP to the rise in net worth, and it's just astronomical. And this goes all in because of the bubbles that they've created. They've created bubbles in housing. They've created bubbles in the stock market. They've created bubbles in the bond market. They've done this in a way that has made it too expensive for the average person to afford anything. They can't buy a reasonably priced home. They can't buy stocks at good valuations anymore. And they've created a dangerous territory for all individuals. Even individuals that have not tried to invest. They just want to buy a home. That's all they want to do. And yet they've made it a speculative vehicle, and that is unbelievably terrible. This is what bankers do, and unfortunately, this is what we're facing every single day. This is the same information. In fact, I'm going to end the video there. You know, when I look at this, I truly worry about people with pensions that are relying on it. Look, if it's coming to you and you've got more than enough money and that's just bonus money, then that's great. If it comes to you, great. But there's a lot of people who are going to be, let's just be nice, they're going to be in bad shape if their pensions don't come to them. And I just worry about them, that's all. So if you found the video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support the channel. So I do appreciate that very much. All you got to do is just hit the thumbs up button, and that's it. It'll help me out a lot. All right. Now, don't forget to subscribe as well. You know, I never get a chance to ask all the time, but when you do, you're joining what will soon be 150,000 people from all over the world. This is the most informative comment section you will ever find. There's so many people commenting on here that I actually encourage, that I actually read, and that I actually reply to, unlike what you see elsewhere where the comments are just, bickering and fighting. There's actually so many informative, knowledgeable people here, and I just really thank each and every one of you for helping me understand the situation wherever it is you are in the world. So thank you all. All right, now, last but not least, if you want the financial education you were not taught in schools, these two books have it all. And I don't just say that just as a promotion. I truly believe this. I worked very hard on these books, and I know from so many people who have told me they've read these books and they found them to be so great and so helpful to them. What I encourage people to do is after they're done reading the book, give it to somebody else. Give it to somebody else you know is going to read it. Make sure they give it back to you, of course, and then help them to understand. All right, so this is what I suggest for everybody to do, and just try to help everybody out. That's really what we need right now. So check them out. Link is in the description below. If you're more interested in the audiobook version, you can get that at themoneygps.com.